Dear students, good morning to everybody. I think so you're all safe at home and studying about the lessons regularly, periodically. Now I would like to continue the lesson, chapter 5, Digestion and Absorption. In that aspect, today first I would like to talk about the histology of the gut. What is histology? The study of tissues. Histology means the study of tissues. That means what are the layers present in the wall of the alimentary canal? What are the layers present in the wall of the alimentary canal? The tissues. That's why it's called as histology of the gut. Gut is a common name used for the alimentary canal. So the wall layers of the alimentary canal together constitute the histology of the gut. Now if you're taking the wall of the alimentary canal from esophagus to the rectum, the last part, it's formed of 4 layers from outer to inner. There are 4 layers forming the wall of the alimentary canal. What are the 4 layers from just outer to inner? Number 1, serosal layer. Number 2, muscularis. Muscularis externa. Externa means external one. Then submucosa and mucosa. I represented here the arrow mark from outer to inner. I represented the 4 layers from outer to inner. So there are 4 layers in the wall of the alimentary canal. We have to know the structure of each layer. What are the components present in it? Now the outermost layer is serosal layer. This is the outermost layer, serosal layer. It is formed of epithelium, particularly squamous epithelium, and a thin layer of connective tissue. So it's formed of epithelium and connective tissue. Then the next one, the muscular layer. It is formed of smooth muscles arranged in 2 layers. It's formed of smooth muscles arranged in 2 layers. See that one? This is what we call the serosal layer number 1. Now this is the next layer, muscularis externa. It is formed of 2 layers. The inner layer of circular muscles and the outer layer of longitudinal muscles. I mentioned here, inner circular muscle, outer what is called longitudinal muscle. It's not circular, outer longitudinal muscle. So outer muscle is arranged longitudinally, inner one is arranged circularly, hence the name. Outer longitudinal. So the second layer from outer to inner, muscularis externa, is being formed of 2 layers. An inner layer of circular muscle. Now the green one represents the inner layer. The red one represents the outer layer. So outer longitudinal muscle. Both together constitute the second layer, what we have muscularis externa. And then we have another layer what's called submucosa. As it is present below the mucosa, the innermost layer is called submucosa. The layer present below the mucosa. So we'll see what are the components present in it. First let's see the diagram. Then the mucosa layer. It's mainly formed of, you know that what epithelial cells concerned with the secretion of mucus. Hence called mucosa layer. So starting from outer to inner, serosa. Then we have muscularis externa, submucosa and mucosa. Now the inner circular muscle and outer longitudinal muscles are normally smooth muscles. They constitute the muscular layer. Okay. Now the mucosal layer in the ileum region is produced into many finger-like projection, what is seen already. This is the innermost layer mucosa, which is being folded, which is being produced into many finger-like projections, projecting into what we have, that is a lumen of the intestine in the form of what are called villi. That's why I represent here villus. This is one singular villus and plural form villi. So these are the different layers present in the wall of the alimentary canal, the diagram. Now I'll explain what are the components present in each layer and what is the role played by each one. Let's see one by one. So, serosa, outer, longitudinal, inner circular. This layer is called what's called a submucosal layer. And the next one, what we have the mucosa, it is being produced into many finger-like projections called villi. Okay, let's continue. As I mentioned earlier, the wall of the alimentary canal is formed of 4 layers. Now, what are the 4 layers I mentioned earlier, and what are the components present in them? Now, the outermost layer is serosal layer. It is formed of squamous epithelium with thin connective tissue. Squamous epithelium with thin connective tissue. Squamous epithelium is normally polygonal in shape, like this. The main function of the outer layer is serosal layer. But the serosal layer is normally absent in the esophagus region. That's a neat question. So it is absent in the esophagus. And then followed by outer serosal, the next layer is muscularis, made up of smooth muscles. The smooth muscles are arranged in 2 layers. The outer one is formed of longitudinal muscles. The inner one is formed of circular muscles, as we have seen in the diagram. The outer one is formed of longitudinal muscles. The muscles are running longitudinally throughout the entire length of the alimentary canal. The inner one is circular muscles. They are formed in the form of a ring, and that is called inner smooth muscles. Now, in addition to this, it is the composition. Now, these layers contain what we call the nerve cells and the autonomous nervous system fibers, what are called the parasympathetic nerve fibers. We have parasympathetic nerve fibers along with the nerve cells are present in this layer. Now, what is the role played by these parasympathetic nerve fibers? We know that it is one of the components of autonomous nervous system. Okay, so it controls what we have peristalsis. So the wave-like contractions, the successive wave-like contractions we will discuss later, that push the food downward from the esophagus into the stomach or through the esophagus into the stomach. So that is called wave-like contractions taking place successively. We will see later that one, and that is called peristalsis under the control of parasympathetic nerve fibers. Now the next one, submucosa, present below the innermost layer called mucosa, hence the name submucosa. Sub means below. So it is formed of loose connective tissue scattered here and there. And it is a place where you have the blood vessels, the lymph vessels, and nerves, along with the sympathetic nerve fibers, another division of the autonomous nervous system. We studied in 10th standard. There are 2 divisions of what is called the autonomous nervous system. One parasympathetic, another one the sympathetic. So the parasympathetic nerve fibers are found, you see that one just in the muscularis layer. And the sympathetic nervous systems are found what we have in the submucosal layer. What is the main role played by the sympathetic nerve fiber? So the sympathetic nerve fibers normally control the secretions of the intestinal juice, secreted by the intestinal glands. We have glands present in the wall of the intestine. They secrete intestinal juice. The secretions of the intestinal juice normally controlled by, that is what we have, the sympathetic nerve fibers. Now the last layer, the mucosal layer, the innermost layer that is facing the lumen of what is called the digestive tract. Lumen means the cavity. Suppose this is the one, so this is the innermost layer. This is the lumen, the space or cavity through which only the food is passing on. So it is the innermost layer lining the lumen of the alimentary canal. There is a cavity of the alimentary canal. So it secretes one component, what is called the mucus. The mucus forms a protective layer to the wall of the alimentary canal against various infections, against the hydrochloric acid, etc. The mucus is acting as a mechanical buffer. We will discuss later. It's a protective layer protecting the wall of the alimentary canal from the action of hydrochloric acid and also from the action of what is called the various microorganisms. That's the role played by that one. So outer layer is protective. Now the muscularis is concerned with what we call peristalsis. Submucosal layer is concerned with the secretion of intestinal juice, and the last layer is concerned with the secretion of mucus, the lining layer protecting the wall of the alimentary canal, okay, from infection and also from hydrochloric acid. Okay, we have to pass on to the next one, the digestive glands. The digestive glands are exocrine glands. If you are taking the glands in the body, there are two types. One is exocrine, another one endocrine. Exocrine glands with the duct, we have studied. Endocrine glands without duct or ductless glands. All the digestive glands have duct except one or two in the wall of the intestine. So which secrete the biological catalyst. The one which creates a biological reaction, a biochemical reaction, is called as a catalyst. As the enzymes are secreted by the living cells, they are called biological catalysts. So all the glands, the digestive glands, secrete what we call the biological catalyst, the one which creates a biochemical reaction secreted by the living cells, called enzymes. What are the glands included? The glands include, number one, the salivary glands in the oral cavity. Number two, the liver, the present on the right side of the abdominal cavity, you'll see. Number three, pancreas. Then four, the wall of the stomach has glands called gastric glands, otherwise called gastric pits, which secrete the juice containing the enzymes called gastric juice. Now the last one, the intestinal glands of intestinal mucosa. So we have the glands in the intestinal mucosa which secrete a juice containing different enzymes which constitute what we call the intestinal juice. Now we will see one by one what are salivary glands, how many pairs are present, and how far they are reaching the mouth cavity, how much amount of saliva secreted per day. These are all the points under the salivary glands. Okay, we'll talk about. Now let's see the salivary glands, the first digestive glands. The salivary glands are three pairs in human beings. That means there are three pairs of salivary glands open into the buccal cavity. But in the case of rabbit, there are four pairs of salivary glands. So in humans we have the largest parotid glands, a pair, located in the cheek region, that is with the Stensen's duct. So each gland opens into the mouth cavity separately through their own ducts. So they are called as the salivary ducts. The name of the salivary duct has different names. For parotid gland, the name of the salivary duct is called Stensen's duct. Now this is the parotid gland present in the cheek region, largest gland, whose secretion is carried by the Stensen's duct, which opens to the buccal cavity. So you can draw a simple diagram like this and not draw as in the book. It's impossible. So draw a simple diagram like that, that's enough. To just locate and position of the salivary glands. So parotid glands in the cheek region with the salivary duct, Stensen's duct. Now the second one, we have what is called the submaxillary or submandibular. Maxilla means upper jaw, mandible means lower jaw. So its position is either below the upper jaw or below the lower jaw. This is the location. That's why it's called either submaxillary or submandibular. So this is the second gland present what we have in the lower jaw. Normally we can say in the lower jaw region, in the angle of what we have the jaw and the neck. Then it opens into the buccal cavity by means of what we have another duct, Wharton's duct. The names are given after the discovery by specific persons. So Wharton's duct, that is nothing but the salivary duct of submaxillary, the one which is present in the lower jaw region. And the third one, small one, present below the tongue. That's why it's called sublingual. This is sublingual. Lingua, the word used for tongue. The lingua, the word used for tongue. So below the tongue we have sublingual. We have the prefix sub that refers to just below, submucosa. You see that one, sublingual. It opens into the buccal cavity by means of a duct. The name of the duct is called Bartholin's duct. It also has another name called duct of Rivinus. This is another name for Bartholin's duct. So either called Bartholin's duct or duct of Rivinus, the salivary duct of what we have, that is sublingual glands. Now the salivary juice normally secreted by these three glands are carried or reach the stomach only through these ducts. So these ducts are responsible for carrying the salivary secretion secreted by these glands. See, the rate of secretion of saliva is about 1000 to 1500 ml. This is per day. The rate of secretion per day is about 1000 to 1500 ml. It is alkaline in nature. It is alkaline nature, having a pH of around about 6.8. We'll talk about later under the digestion. I mentioned the case of rabbit, there are 4 pairs of salivary glands. In addition to these 3 glands, parotid, submaxillary, sublingual, we have one more gland present below the eye orbit in this region, and that is called infraorbital gland. That is in the case of rabbit. This is one neat question. So in rabbit we have 4 pairs, in humans only 3 pairs. So that's about the first one, salivary glands. We have to know a few words about the gastric glands. Now the next one, gastric glands. The glands present in the wall of the stomach together called as gastric glands, or we can say gastric pits, P-I-T-S, because they are found in small just pits or cavities. Nearly 40 million gastric glands are present in the stomach of human beings. Now they secrete a juice called gastric juice, which is a mixture of different components. Now you see, the gastric glands are formed of different types of cells. We have only a few cell types given in your book. The first cell type, chief cells or peptic cells or zymogen cells. Zymogen means enzyme secreting cells, hence the name zymogen. As it is found in the stomach, hence called peptic cells. And this is the main cell found in the stomach, hence the name chief cells. Now what is the main role of this one? Secrete gastric enzymes. 2 enzymes are secreted mainly, pepsinogen and renin. We'll see in the physiology of digestion. The second one, goblet cells, which secrete mucus, just lining the wall of the stomach, protecting the wall of the stomach against the hydrochloric acid. So anywhere else, either in the wall of the intestine or in the wall of the stomach, the mucus secreting cells are called goblet cells. Even the respiratory tract, we have mucus layer. In the urinogenital tract, we have mucus layer. Wherever mucus is secreted, such cells are called the goblet cells. So their main function, secrete mucus. The last one, parietal or oxydic cells. Now these cells secrete 2 components, one hydrochloric acid to maintain the acidic pH of the stomach, because enzymes are working only in acidic pH. The second one, Casel's intrinsic factor, a factor, intrinsic factor, responsible for the absorption of vitamin B12, what is called cyanocobalamin, from the diet. So what is Casel's intrinsic factor? What is its function? So it is one of the factors secreted by oxydic cells. Function, it helps in the absorption of vitamin B12. That's a question, 2 marks question. So Casel's intrinsic factor is secreted by the oxydic cells or parietal cells. That's one point. Another one, what is its role? Responsible for the absorption of vitamin B12. Responsible for the absorption of vitamin B12. That's about the gastric glands. Now we have to go for the liver and pancreas together, one diagram. Just I will complete this liver first. Liver is the largest exocrine gland in our body, weighing about nearly 1.5 kg. Weighing about nearly about 1.5 kg. So this is the weight of what we have the liver. Where is it situated? It is situated on the right side, on the upper right side of the abdominal cavity, just below the diaphragm. Then it's being formed of 2 major lobes and 2 minor lobes. The 2 minor lobes are called caudate and quadrate. So the major lobes are called right and left lobes. Now we have right and left lobes, the major lobes. And the smaller lobes or the minor lobes are called caudate and quadrate. And each lobe is further divided into many hepatic lobules. That is a functional unit of liver. Then, what is Glissen's capsule? 1-2 marks question. What is Glissen's capsule? I mentioned about the hepatic lobule. Each hepatic lobule is normally covered by a thin connective tissue sheath. The name of the sheath is called Glissen's capsule after its discovery by the person Glissen. So, Glissen's capsule, each hepatic lobule is covered by thin connective tissue sheath. That sheath is called what is known as Glissen's capsule. Then, what is gallbladder? Normally, the hepatic cells secrete the bile, the juice. The bile is normally stored and concentrated in a thin muscular sac-like structure. That thin muscular sac-like structure is called the gallbladder. Okay, then what is common bile duct? From this gallbladder there arises a duct carrying the bile, what is called cystic duct. This is a duct from the gallbladder. And we have ducts from the lobes of the liver. They are called hepatic duct. They are called hepatic duct. So the cystic duct and the hepatic ducts from the liver join together to form a common bile duct. So one cystic duct, 2 or more hepatic ducts join together to form a single common bile duct. We will see a few more about the liver. Now the common bile duct passes downwards and joins with the main pancreatic duct, which is called duct of Wirsung. Duct of Wirsung is the name of the main pancreatic duct. So, the common bile duct joins with this what is called duct of Wirsung, the main pancreatic duct, to form a duct called hepatopancreatic duct, formed with the union of bile duct and pancreatic duct. Now, what is sphincter of Oddi? The hepatopancreatic duct just actually opens into the duodenum. Before opening into the duodenum, it enlarges to form what is called ampulla, a swollen structure. I'll show it in the diagram. And which opens into the duodenum. The opening of this what is called actually hepatopancreatic duct into the duodenum is guarded by some muscles, the sphincter muscles. These sphincter muscles are called what is known as sphincter of Oddi. So I wrote also on the board, the hepatopancreatic duct opens into the duodenum. Now the opening of hepatopancreatic duct, that is into the duodenum, is guarded by a sphincter. The name of the sphincter is called Oddi, ODA, after the name of the person. Now the liver has a high power of regeneration when compared to other cells. So the liver cells has been replaced by actually new cells. Once in every what we have 3 to 4 weeks. They are being replaced again and again. Now the liver is connected to the diaphragm by means of a ligament. The name of the ligament is called falciform ligament. This ligament not only connects the liver to the diaphragm and also divides the right and left major lobes. The right and left major lobes also divided by this falciform ligament, or joined, we can say joined by falciform ligament. The right and left lobes. Now what are the functions of the liver? So normally it is considered as a graveyard along with the spleen because it destroys, aging, and also defective. The defective cells are others called effete cells, unable to transport oxygen. So it is called as a graveyard because it destroys aging as well as what we have the defective blood cells. That's number one. Hence called graveyard. That's also another name for this one, graveyard, along with the spleen. But the main graveyard is spleen. The main graveyard is spleen. So along with just actually what we have, just we see that one liver is also acting as a graveyard for the destruction of what we have, the worn out or the aged, or we have the defective blood cells. Then it is the main storehouse of glycogen. So it stores glucose in the form of glycogen, a complex polysaccharide, glycogen. And also it disperses glucose whenever there is a need, when there is a shortage of glucose in the blood. Excess of glucose is stored in the form of glycogen in the liver. And when there is a need, just actually when the shortage of glucose in the blood,
At times what will happen, the glucose is being dispersed from the liver with the help of hormones secreted by the pancreas, particularly for example glucagon hormone, responsible for the release of glucose from the liver. Insulin for the storage of glucose in the liver in the form of glycogen. Glucagon, another hormone, is responsible for the release of glucose and the dispersal of glucose through the bloodstream to various parts of the body. So that is a second function. The third function, normally it detoxifies actually the toxic substance. So it is a center for detoxification. Either the liver or any antibiotic drug we have taken in, all being degraded only in the liver. If the liver is not there, then there is no breakdown of alcohol. In most of the persons who are drunk or drinking alcohol continuously, the organ which is affected first is the liver, because it is a place of what is called the breakdown. It is called as the factory of the body. Almost all reactions are taking place in the liver. The main function also detoxification of toxic substances. Then it is also a place of storage of fat soluble vitamins and iron in the form of ferritin. Iron is stored, and also fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, K are also stored. And also the last function, normally liver involves in the synthesis of urea. Urea is being synthesized in the liver only, not in the kidney. Kidney is concerned with the excretion, whereas the liver is concerned with what we call the formation and synthesis of urea. Along with it is also involved in the synthesis of non-essential amino acids. So essential amino acids, the amino acids have to be taken through diet. Non-essential, the meaning for that one that can be synthesized by our body. Essential amino acids cannot be synthesized, whereas non-essential amino acids can be synthesized. So non-essential amino acids are synthesized by the liver. That's all about the liver, and we have to go for a few words about the pancreas. It's a short one only, we'll discuss. What I discussed about the functions of the liver, I wrote on the board the remaining three functions. Stores glucose, the next one detoxifies toxic substances, synthesis of what we have urea and non-essential amino acids. Now the last visible gland, exocrine gland, the second largest gland in the digestive system, that is the pancreas. It is more or less a leaf-like structure. So it is a yellow colored, a compound gland, because it is being formed of two different types of cells. Hence called also heterocrine gland, formed of two different types of cells, that is exocrine and endocrine, hence called heterocrine or compound. It's elongated, consisting of what we have exocrine and endocrine cells. That's why it's called compound gland or heterocrine gland. It is situated in between what we have the two limbs of the U-shaped duodenum. Present between the two limbs of the U-shaped duodenum. Now, I mentioned about it is formed of exocrine glands and endocrine glands. The exocrine cells secrete what we call the enzymes. For example, pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase, trypsin, chymotrypsin. Okay. The endocrine cells of pancreas secrete hormones like insulin and glucagon, playing a major role in the maintenance of glucose level. Now here I given the diagram, the picture, showing the pancreas and the liver. So the liver is formed of right and left lobe, separated by falciform ligament. The same ligament also connects the liver to the diaphragm. Then, this is the pancreas lying between the two limbs of the duodenum. Here you see that one, the bile is stored and concentrated in the gallbladder, from where there arises the duct, what is called cystic duct. Then from the liver lobes we have right and left what is called the hepatic ducts. They join together and join with what is called the cystic duct to form a common bile duct. Now the common bile duct passes downwards and joins with what is called the pancreatic duct. This is a major pancreatic duct, otherwise called as duct of Wirsing. Duct of Wirsing. Now this duct joins with what is called the common bile duct to form hepatopancreatic duct. It opens into the duodenum. Before opening, it enlarges to form a swollen structure, what is called ampulla of Vater, and which opens the duodenum. The opening is guarded by a sphincter called sphincter of Oddi. So the main duct, what is called the primary duct, is called duct of Wilson, and also we have another branch which opens directly into the duodenum. So that's about the diagram showing the pancreas along with the liver. Okay, follow it. So far we have concluded about the digestive glands. Then we have to go for the physiology of digestion. Digestion in the buccal cavity, stomach, intestine, etc. Okay, we'll see that one in the next class. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.